All right, hello everyone. Eric Marks, findingmiddleearth.com, and today we're going to talk about the Fujifilm X-T2, the Fujifilm X-T20, which is this missing spot right here. We'll talk about that. And then the Fujifilm X-T1. All right, before we get started, if you guys are interested, hop on over to my website, findingmiddleearth.com. If you click the big subscribe button in the top right, you'll get a free video on my landscape photography gear, my Fuji kit, my Nikon kit, all my gear inside and outside of my bag. It's a free 45-minute video. Just click the subscribe button, shoot your email in the box, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so I get so many emails, probably more than any other email about Fuji stuff, asking me why in the world I have the X-T1 still instead of the X-T20. It must just drive some of you guys bonkers that I have this camera, and I don't know why. So this is the X-T1, this is the X-T2 over here, and I still love my X-T1. So a lot of people, I guess, are presented with a decision when they jump into the Fuji line, right? They're presented with what's the first camera they should get, whether you're a professional or a hobbyist. Okay, I know a lot of people even that shoot professional stuff with their DSLRs and they just want to kind of dabble in the mirrorless system, they still have this decision of which first Fuji camera they should get. It's overwhelming because you hear so many different things about them, and it's really overwhelming because not many people say, oh, well, it's a clear decision because this is the best Fuji camera. You really hear people say great things about the X Pro 2, the X-T2, the X-T1. People still love the original X100, so it is really hard to decide. Whereas with Sony and Nikon and some of the other brands, there's more of a definite like, oh, well, stay away from that lens, stay away from that camera. We know from years and years and years of use, those aren't very good. You want to pick from these couple. But with Fujifilm, I mean, everyone just kind of loves everything, it seems like. All the cameras are really good, and just people tend to love them, so it's hard to make a decision. So let me tell you why I have the X-T1 and not the X-T20. That might help you make your decision. I have played around with the X-T20. Okay, I played around with it a fair bit before I decided on sticking with the X-T1, because I got the X-T1, I think, before they officially announced the X-T20. And when they released the X-T20, a lot of people said, "Are you going to sell your X-T1 now, or are you going to get an X-T20 to join your Fuji line of cameras?" And I had to think about it. I had to look at the camera and evaluate it and think, do I really need it? And I'll tell you what the X-T20 is really good for. Okay, I think it's kind of the perfect travel camera. If you're a hobbyist and you like taking travel photos that are better than just taking them on your iPhone, and you want to take really good travel photos with the family, or I don't know, photos of your son's sports team or daughter's sports team or cheerleading competitions or anything like that, just regular family stuff, I think it's a great camera. Now, so many people say the X-T20 is the X-T2 for half the price. That's not true. The X-T20 is not the X-T2. Okay, they do have the same sensor, all right? They do have the same 24 megapixel sensor as the X-T2. With the X-T20, so same sensor, but that's not the same camera. They don't have the exact same autofocusing system, okay? They don't have all of the same features. There are more pro features on the X-T2, okay? So the first thing why I didn't get an X-T20 is because I love my battery grips. I have been a DSLR shooter since day one, and so I love my long battery life. Both of these cameras allow me to have battery grips with extra battery so that I can be, kind of more along the lines used to what I get with my Nikon cameras. Now, they're still not quite as good as some of the, a Nikon camera with a battery grip, because that'll get you by for like a week of shooting, depending on what you do. But these battery grips make the ergonomics better. Okay, it's just more comfortable. It's much more evenly weighted with the lenses. With the X-T2, the battery grip gives you the boost mode, which is just unbelievable. Takes you to 11 frames per second on the mechanical shutter. It tweaks the autofocus system. So yeah, this is just a phenomenal upgrade, the battery grip for the X-T2. And then the X-T1 just simply gives you the battery life and the ergonomics. So I absolutely love that. Now, for a lot of you, you don't care about the battery grip, you just want something small. That's kind of what it's for. It is much smaller than the X-T2 as far as trying to hold it. It does not have a pronounced grip, all right? That was the first thing I noticed, was it was kind of harder for me to hold for the grip because I have kind of naturally big hands, and so I like gripping big DSLRs, and I like gripping the X-T2. It's got a very nice ergonomic grip here. It's very, very easy for me to hold. Even the X-T1 isn't bad. It's especially with the battery grip, it's very easy for me to pick up. It's comfortable for long days of shooting. I like it. With the X-T20, right when I picked it up, it didn't work for my hands. Now, let's talk about the camera. It's a fantastic camera, okay? It does a lot of great things. The autofocus system is still very good, okay? Because again, I played around with it before I decided to keep the X-T1. It has very good autofocus. Even in low light, it's pretty good. Not as good as the X-T2 in low light, okay? It's not as good as the X-T2 at tracking either, but it is very, very good at tracking. It's better than most entry-level DSLRs that you would get at tracking, okay? So it's got a touch screen, which is nice. It wasn't the most responsive touch screen I've ever used, but it is very nice. It does not have the little joystick on the back for changing your autofocus points. Now, this joystick for me is just, it's a must-have. A lot of people don't have to have it because me and Mark Puckett from the Photo Video Show were actually talking about this on our last live stream, that Mark was saying that after he used the X-T20, he found that it actually was pretty easy for him to have it to his eye and kind of use his thumb for the touchscreen. I don't know, I just think the joystick is a must-have, but since Mark felt that he was okay with the touchscreen, that just proves that, you know, go try it out for yourself, because we're all going to have different opinions. But I get so many emails about this, this is why I'm making this video. So those are just a few reasons why I didn't get the X-T20. Some other points that I made here that I wrote down. Okay, the X-T2 has dual card slots, which is great for me, okay, especially for the pro shooter. The X-T20 only has a single card slot. Touchscreen on the X-T20. Obviously, the X-T2 does not have a touchscreen. It's not a big deal to me. The X-T20 has a significantly smaller buffer, okay? Now, neither of these cameras has an amazing buffer like the Nikon D500, where you can just hold down the shutter until, like, the day ends, literally. But the buffer is better on the X-T2 if you do care about a lot of, you know, spraying off a bunch of frames and being able to hold that down and continuously keep getting shots before the buffer gives out and has to regroup. The X-T20 does not have as good a buffer as the X-T2. All right, also, already mentioned, no vertical grip for the X-T20. Not as good as the X-T2 at low light autofocus acquisition. That's a big one if you're an event shooter, is low light autofocus. Now, the X-T2 is actually better at low light autofocusing than even a lot of the Nikon cameras. I put it up against my Nikon D4, and my gosh, it literally was just a hair faster than my Nikon D4. And I haven't tested it directly against the Nikon D500 because I don't own the D500, but from what I've read and from what I've seen on the videos, the X-T2 is even a hair faster than the Nikon D500 in autofocus acquisition. So that's a big one there. They do have the same sensor, so you're not going to like lose image quality by getting the X-T20. That is one nice thing. They have the exact same size sensor. They take all the same lenses, the great Fuji non-glass, okay? So you're not like, it's not like you go to the X-T20 and you get half the image quality. You get the same beautiful X-Trans images. You're just losing some features there, but they may not matter to you. That's why we're kind of going down this list. No joystick, that's a huge one for me, okay? The joystick on the back here and on the grip to be able to quickly change your, however many autofocus points this thing has now, like 10 million autofocus points or whatever it is. No, I think it's like 320 or something. So yeah, all the autofocus points is way easier, especially in like group mode, to just quickly flick the joystick back and forth. And then another thing that mattered to me, may not matter to you, the X-T20 has a flash sync speed of 1/180th of a second. The X-T2 has a native flash sync speed of 1/250th of a second. So if that matters to you, that's good. If it doesn't, then you might be okay with the X-T20. And then I'll save the kind of the kicker for the last thing. This is the biggest reason why I did not get the X-T20. This is literally like the main reason. Viewfinder. Both the X-T2 and the X-T1 have monstrous viewfinders, especially the X-T2. But both of them have very comfortable viewfinders. Neither one of them have made me really miss the optical viewfinder of the DSLR. That's huge for me. I love being able to put my eye up to this thing, and it's like my own little personal IMAX theater on the inside of this camera. Same with the X-T1. The X-T1 is a very, very impressive EVF, okay? But the X-T20, while it has a good EVF, it's not a bad, it's not dark, it's still very bright and vibrant, it's just not big. It's a little tiny EVF, and I don't know, I couldn't get used to that. Now, again, as a travel camera, if I spent, months and months on the road and I was just doing hobbyist photographer while I was doing like another career and I just wanted to take some photos and document my travels, the X-T20 is probably perfect because it's super light, you still have access to all the great Fuji non-glass, it has a lot of the features of the X-T2, not everyone has a lot of the features, probably more than you'd ever need as a hobbyist. So it has the Wi-Fi control. Like I said, it has the great X-Trans sensor. It has a lot of the cool functions on the menu system. It has the zone focusing. It does have the autofocus custom settings. It's missing one though. It doesn't have the 6th setting where you can create your own autofocus mode. So I don't know if that matters to you at all. That would matter to me, because for a certain weird backlighting situations, I do have kind of a custom tweak that I use in here. Anyway, when it comes down to it, there's not really a bad Fujifilm camera when it comes to the X-T1, X-T2, X Pro 2, X-T20, even the X-T10 was great. So I think it really comes down to, what are you going to be using it for? Are you the pro photographer? Are you the hobbyist? Do you want it for traveling? Because it is a fantastic little travel camera to throw in your messenger bag, even as like a second body along with the X-T2. So that's what I had to kind of evaluate for myself, because I already had the X-T2 when the X-T20 dropped. So I had to think, well, do I want the X-T20 as my backup or my second camera, or do I want to keep the X-T1? And like I said, what really at the end of the day made me keep the X-T1 is the viewfinder and the option of the battery grip. And of course, the fact that I already had an X-T1, didn't want to have to, deal with trying to sell it and rebuy another camera, because I think the X-T1 takes fantastic images. So one of my videos coming up, it'll be before the end of this month, I'm going to be releasing, is doing I'll do a quick little 2-part video where I go and shoot a landscape image with the X-T1 in the field. And I'm going to release a 20x30 print. I'm going to show it on camera of getting a 20x30 print made from this 16 megapixel sensor. A lot of people underestimate this 16 megapixel sensor. This is one of the most impressive 16 megapixel sensors, especially APS-C sensors, I have ever used. It's fantastic. So anyway, I hope that helped some people decide between the X-T20, X-T2, X-T1. Before I end, I want to ask you a question. Why do you think there's still people to this day in 2017 using cameras that are 8, 9, 10 years old, okay? Think about, I know so many wedding photographers that still use the Nikon D3, the D700, okay? Old cameras, okay? People still using the X-T1, people still using the X100, the first one. Why? Because each camera, when it's produced, does kind of have its own look, okay? The X Pro 1, for example, I think has its own look compared to the X Pro 2. The X-T1, right out of the camera, has a different look than the X-T2. Now, not a bad look, they're just different. So, and it's hard to replicate that. So when you see these people kind of clinging on to these older cameras and kind of, pry it out of my dead hands type thing, it's because they do have their own look. And so while the X-T20 is enticing and it was cool for me to look at, the X-T1, I just didn't want to give it up. Now, I may add an X-T20 at some point if I do a ton of traveling, just to take as like a behind the scenes documentary type camera, because it does do 4K video. It does some, it has some nice features. It's just not for me at this time. So that's why I shoot with the X-T1. Hopefully it doesn't drive people nuts anymore. The X-T1 is still a very, very capable professional camera. Of course, you can use it for professional use. There's so many people that just think, oh, mirrorless camera and it's a cropped sensor. What? I thought you were a professional. You can absolutely use an X-T1 for professional work. It just depends on what you're using it for. Okay, if you tell me you're a professional sports shooter and you shoot NFL games, probably wouldn't recommend the X-T1. Okay, you just have to evaluate it for your situation. So, of course, let me know if you have any questions. If you're still trying to decide and there's one factor you're trying to decide on, leave it in the comments, shoot me an email on my website, whatever, and I'll try to help you through that. But I always try to just provide information on what's kind of, what helped me make my decisions, hoping that it will help you make yours. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.
If you would like to stay up to date on all of my photography videos and free tutorials, please consider subscribing by clicking on my face. And if you would like to find out more about me and how to improve your photography, visit my website at findingmiddleearth.com.